Welcome to another episode of A Blind Insight with me, Simon Hill, and Billy Spakeman.
How do you do?
Just the two of us today. Not so. We're gonna crack on with. It'll be a bit out of date by the time this episode goes out, but we need to really talk about the outcome of the Euros and obviously the developments since. We're now looking for a new manager, so that's always an interesting time. Yeah. And then we'll finish off talking about Hilly and Billy's Britain with a couple of things that we didn't manage to get onto in the previous episode. So, yeah, England. I think in our heart of hearts, yeah, most of us knew that we'd need to. Go up a gear or two to really be able to if we were going to beat Spain. And
I think they were the standout side, weren't they? I mean, not just us, but I mean, every game they were the standout side.
Well, winning 7 out of 7, they didn't. They won every single game at a tournament. Yeah. So that's
and such. I mean, we talk about players, Foden and Bellingham, but they've got such players coming through. Both on probably the two best wingers in the contest, without a doubt. Young lads, 116, 120 was he?
Well, I think he literally turned 17 before the final, and then. The other lad, Williams, I think he might be a bit older than 20 actually, but either way, he's still not.
Just phenomenal players, and really played totally without a fear of anything. And it was like I was saying, if you're an attacking player, and obviously they've got the instructions off the manager, it doesn't matter how many times you take on players and you lose it, because you're going to get round one of the times, and twice they got round and caused trouble, and that was it.
Well, they caught us cold, didn't they? I mean, we didn't get going for after half time, and that's when they hit us first, and then and then obviously it was close to the end when they hit us for the second time, but we didn't, even though they weren't, we'd come against defensive teams earlier in the tournament who obviously, made it hard for us to break them down. But even though they did attack us and, there was space to play, and we still didn't really threaten, did we?
No, I mean, there are certain things that it was strikingly obvious that, and it's only criticism, it's a fact. This is what I can't understand. You've got pundits who are out there to make a critical comment, but when they make a critical comment, which is correct, they get panned for it, because they say, "Oh, you shouldn't be saying that about the players." Well, what should they say if they're playing badly? Should they say they're doing really, really well? Of course they shouldn't. But I mean, there were striking things where I thought Harry Kane, I think, shouldn't have played after the first couple of games. It was quite obvious that he'd lost, injury-wise or whatever, lost his pace. He couldn't take on defenders. He tended to come deeper and deeper and deeper. Hence, we had no target man at all, and that never changed. Whatever he told I thought Bellingham ran his heart out, but he was just trying. He was getting so frustrated that he got nobody to pop it to when he was making his runs, and consequently, he lost it quite a few times. But when you look back at it, you thought, well, where on earth was he supposed to put it? There was nobody there to give it to anyway. And once or twice, you could see him getting really annoyed with Kane, almost like saying, well, you should be further up. I've got nobody to hit it to, so how do we expect to attack,
Well, the thing with Kane, I mean, whatever the reasons, I mean, record for goal scoring, unquestionable. But I've heard Alan Shearer talk before about how Bobby Robson, when he got to 30 or 31, Bobby Robson said to him when he was managing Newcastle, look, we just play the width of the 18-yard box. We don't need you out wide. We don't need you coming back. Yeah. You do your best. You do your damage in the box. That's where we want you. We'll get the ball into you, but we don't want you dropping back looking for the ball. And for whatever reason, and yes, I know, it may mean maybe because he was getting frustrated because he wasn't getting touch the ball, but then it was But then, like you say, because he dropped deep, when we did get the ball into the box, he wasn't where he needed him to be.
No, there was nobody there, and the young lads who came on didn't really have enough time to make an impact, really. I mean, but I'm not saying, I'm incredibly proud of them. I think they did incredibly well, and he did, considering. And it also showed how fickle British supporters are, really, because it was like, we ate your guts, then there was a miraculous recovery, so, oh, he's fantastic, we got us to the final, lose the final, and well, it's a load of rubbish, really.
Well,
It just baffles me,
well,
absolutely baffles me.
I mean, again, when the bigger picture, which in the yes, I mean, I think well, most people that have experienced anything like it, I've played in blind European finals and lost them both, and it hurts like hell. Nothing, losing a final is the worst in sport because that's the closest you can come without winning it. And
Yeah,
but the when you break it down, I mean, if you'd have said to us 2016, we just got been beaten by Iceland. Everything looked bleak. That they didn't. There was all sorts of talk about there's no plan, there's no direction. The players don't want to play for their country anymore, and this, that, and the other. So if someone had told us then that we'd get to not one but two, bear in mind we hadn't got to a final in 50 odd years, get to not one but two European finals, in over the next 8 years, I think we'd have all gone, yeah, all right, yeah,
we'll take that.
Yes, obviously you want to win them,
Yeah,
but that's the progress that Southgate's management's brought about, and so for consistency in terms of, I mean, the World Cup, I mean, one semi, one quarter, and then two finals on the trot in the Euros. It's
there probably ain't many European countries that have got over the time that he's been a manager that have got that record, really, that consistency, have they?
well, I mean, obviously there was. Look at Italy. Okay, we're gutted we lost the final, but Italy won it, and then they, nowhere near this time.
No.
In terms of in tournament football, you've got to be consistent. Of course, it's hard international football because in the football season, you have a bad game, you can go and try and put it right the next week, or. But in international football, it's every couple of years. Yeah, obviously you have the qualifiers and everything, but they're, let's face it, much of a muchness really. There's, it's only really usually 2 or 3 teams in the group that are competing to realistically go through. But so you only get out to have a crack every 2 years. But to like I said, having never got to a final or not got to a final for 50 odd, to then get to 2. It's still progress, and obviously the players that, whatever the rights and wrongs of the tactics, or were the players tired, were they carrying injuries or whatever, there's players like who it was their first tournament, the likes of Palmer, the likes of Bellingham, really. I mean, he played, obviously he played in the World Cup, but I mean, he's only really still establishing himself. And so these players will be still around in a couple of years. Kane will obviously be, well, that's down to whoever the new manager is to decide whether, what his plans are, how he wants to move forward with Kane. But there are many of those players will still be the nucleus of a team for the World Cup in 2 years, and
without a doubt. And I mean, when you look at the Spain side, a lot of them came through their 121 side, didn't they?
Yeah.
And they're still a really, well, it's like they said, they could rule now for a decade with that team and not really have to pick anybody because they're all of an age, or most of them are of an age. I think it'll be. I mean, why do you think he made his decision so quickly? Do you think it's because of the way he was treated, and he thought, I might as well go now, and it gives them, the new bloke, at least a year to start working on the next qualifiers?
Well, I thought about it, and I was sort of 90% maybe thought he would go, but there was still part of me that thought, well, maybe if the FA stood, which by all accounts they did, would he think, well, just have one more crack, at a World Cup or whatever, But he'd obviously got it in his mind. I mean, obviously only he will know, but maybe whether we won it or not. I mean, I think because if we'd won it, then you're then into the things of, well, what if you go out on a high, or do you risk carry on the...
It's a difficult decision. And also, that whoever they have, it doesn't matter who it is, they're going to be on a hide into nothing, because if they don't win the next competition, it's going to be they're a failure, aren't they?
Well,
you know what I mean?
And again, you talk about the fickle English or British supporters. We, like I said, we've come from virtually rock bottom over over 8 years, and so expectancy, I suppose, has gone up, which is the case. That's what happens if you become successful. Then the expectancy goes up, and then when you don't hit what people think you should hit, you get criticised. But whoever comes in's got to find a way of getting the best out of the players we've got, and like we said, you got Bellingham and Foden. That's a bit of a conundrum because they kind of like to occupy the same kind of area on the pitch, but I think there's got to be a way you can get them both in the team together. I think, and then like we say, whether Kane. I mean, for me, I feel sorry for Kane in a way because there's this obsession these days of playing one up front.
Yeah.
Whereas I just think sometimes, why not have two up front? If Kane up there with a Watkins or a Tony to help him occupy, take one of the defenders away from him, and help him get more space, would have been a whole different prospect. I think
you see, don't you, with a lot of the successful teams, and throughout the years, you always had a target man and one playing off them. And that's always been the case. It's only modern football where you have whatever it is, the blind number 9 or or wherever it is. And you just think, well, I don't know what that means. You're either a number 9 and you're a striker, or you're not a striker. It's as simple as that, isn't it?
Well, but at the end of the day, surely it doesn't change. I mean, like, this was the interesting thing about Spain as well, is they have changed from the previous Spain side that were dominant for a long time, where yes, they do still pass, but equally they do go more direct and they do put crosses into the box. So in the end, it doesn't, surely it's just simple numbers. If you're putting a cross into the box and you're trying to hit only one man, and they're going to have 2 or 3 around them, I mean, the cross has got to be absolutely pinpoint accurate to even give them a chance. And whereas if you've got at least 2 in there, occupying defender, and as a defender, I mean, what's easier? Not only having one forward to worry about, or having 2 or 3. Yeah. It's so.
Have you got an idea of who you think that it'll be?
Well, early names I've heard thrown around. I mean, they talked about Thomas Tuchel, which
somebody said it to me the other day, and I was thinking, no, that can't work.
But he seems to be one of these that's. I mean, I was trying to remember. I didn't look. I have to look at his record, but I mean, he's been to big clubs, yes, but he hasn't really. You can't say he's really done. Won a lot, and then, I mean, obviously Graham Potter. I mean, that he's an interesting one because I kind of like the idea because that I think that his way of playing football could well work with the players that England have got now, but obviously he's Chelsea. I mean, Chelsea are a bit of a bad example because they don't give people 5 minutes, do they? But to go from, he hasn't had many Premier jobs in England or even at Premier League level, and to go from that to suddenly England, will it be?
It's a totally different thing, isn't it? Really, international football.
Well, like we say, you're not working with the play. You only get the players for a short period of time. You have to try and get your ideas over in a much more sort of short period of time. And but yeah, I'm a bit stumped really, to be honest, in terms of people that are available. I mean, not that necessarily makes a difference, of course, but do you
think they'll? I mean, if Eddie Howe's their bloke, do you think they'll entice him away with enough money from Newcastle? Because they're quite adamant that he ain't going to go, aren't they, Newcastle?
Well, I mean, they'll find the money, won't they, if it comes to it? But then I'm sure, in the end, if your country comes calling, you're going to say no. But you'd imagine it would take a monumental amount of compensation for, unless of course he resigns, but.
Mm-hmm. And what about the old Tottenham boss, Ponchetto, isn't it? I mean, he's Argentinian, which is a bit of a contradiction, isn't it? And they're all going, "Oh, yeah, but he'll be brilliant. He'll be brilliant for us."
Well, again, he just showed. I mean, remember the fuss when Ericsson came along, and then Capello, and and then an Argentinian, which I, again I can see why he appeals. I mean, I don't want to sound old fashioned, but I think that really, it is good to try and get an English coach, a homegrown coach to. Because the thing is, as well, is with foreign managers, is that if a better offer comes along, they haven't got the same, loyalty or emotional ties, have they? Whereas, if you're English and it's your dream to lead your country, then you're going to be much more. I don't mean much more dedicated, but you're not going to necessarily. That's the top, isn't it? Managing your country. So,
I suppose it's timing as well. If it's going to be how, they've got to do it before. Well, they've started pre-season training,
well,
so they need to do it pretty quickly. The other two aren't in jobs, so it's not as crucial to be straight on it.
Well, I think they said, or I heard that they said they've got a contingency plan, which I think it was suggested to be Lee Carsley, the under-21s.
Oh, the under-21s,
which is logical. So that.
I'm not sure when do the next lot of matches start. Is it September?
I think I've read the next one September. Yeah, I can't remember whether that's a qualifier or a friendly. So I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think they'll rush it unless they've got someone and they want, like you say, they want to get it done before they get into a club season. But
do you think they'll wipe the slate now? Do you think? Let me think. I mean, John Stone's played out of his skin, so to me, he stops. The new centre half has played himself in, so I don't think we'll see Maguire again. Do you think people like Trippier won't be selected again? Kane, Walker, in relation to they're thinking ahead to the World Cup, so they've got to give the lads two years to bond together, aren't they? So do you think they'll clear all the deadwood, for want of a better word, and just say, almost make a statement, say, look, these are the young kids. They are going to lose some matches, but this is where our future lies, so you're going to have to bear with us. Or are they a bit frightened of the British crowd or the English crowd, thinking, oh, we've lost again, and they'll lose faith in the squad?
Well, I think they're always worried about that. No matter what they say, end of the day, the reaction is, that they don't want the fans getting up in arms about it. But I think realistically, I mean, age. I think Walker's 30. So we're talking 2 years' time. Walker 33. I mean, I know he's still quick. Is he still going to be that quick in 2 years? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. But for the final goal, he was miles off the pace when he was miles away. I mean, I'm not saying just him. The whole defence was pulled apart. And there's once or twice where he was really struggling.
I think.
But I mean, they've either got to be brave, haven't they, and say, right, we're starting from this. Gordon's going to be in, so and so's going to be out. Blah blah blah. We're going to give him a run, and we might lose a few games. But then again, you look at Wales, and he was rebuilding a side, and they oofed him out, didn't they? So it's pretty brutal in international football.
Well, and there isn't, unfortunately, in sport. Either by we all hear about whether it's a club manager or there's a plan, this that and the other, blah blah. But then a few months down the line, if they're not winning games, then the plan's forgotten and they're out. And that's unfortunately whatever people say and whatever the intention is. That's the nature of football, isn't it? But I think Kane will do. I think it depends on the positions. I think Kane will still have a part to play in 2 years because he's 30 now, I think, and he's 31, so that he's 32. Walker and Trippier, I wouldn't be surprised either way. I think if another right and left back. I mean, we got Trent Alexander-Arnold, I suppose. So I think, we've got enough depth in full back position. So I wouldn't be surprised if. Or even, of course, they might make the decision. Like players have done in the past. Decide well. In order to play longer for my club, I'm going to step back from international football, and that might make the decision for the manager. I mean, there's other, like we said, the players that have been in the squad this time that maybe didn't play, but they've still been there. They've got this experience. They'll go back and get another, if they do well for another season, get some more appearances in the qualifiers. So I think I'm not sure they'll be as bold and obvious about it as making us say, right, this is the plan. But I think behind the scenes there'll be, if players aren't already thinking it themselves, there'll be conversations where they'll say, look, we want to try and move in this direction. With the best will in the world, by the time the World Cup comes around, you're going to be another 2 years older. And we'd like to get players some games under their belt who, hopefully all being. Of course, the problem will be is if they do that and then they don't qualify for the World Cup. And then
and then they'll be out straight away. The manager will.
So,
if they don't qualify, then they'll be on the bike anyway. The manager, won't they?
So
they've got to qualify.
Yeah,
got to.
It's a difficult judgment to make, but I think there will be some that will call it a day, either themselves or will have it done for them. But yeah, it'll be a different looking team, I think, come the next World Cup. But the likes of Bellingham and Foden.
I think they'll make Bellingham skipper for the next match. I'm sure they will. He's destined for it, and I think this is the time now. And I was reading what the journalist was saying. People are a bit wary or a bit sceptical of him because he's so confident. We don't have British players like him, and it's almost like, well, he shouldn't be acting like that because he's one of us. But he's grown up with success, and then he's grown up and he's playing in probably the world's greatest team and holding his own. So he should be not arrogant, but he should be ultra confident of his ability, and it should rub off really.
Well, it's a fine balance. It's a balanced act, isn't it? To succeed in something as brutal as football, you've got to have self-confidence and belief in your ability. By all accounts, from what I hear, he's got a good people around him. So if he does start to get carried away, he'll be,
soon be
brought back in.
Yeah.
So, but at the end of the day, the lad's just, he's gone to Dortmund and set it alight there. He's gone to Real Madrid, and as if he's been playing there all his life. At the moment, and I'm sure he's well aware that in sport and life things can change very quickly.
Yeah.
But at the moment, he's playing. He's playing, and I'm sure he'd be the first to say that he's still learning about the game, learning how he can adjust. Because of course, the great players, it's not just about you necessarily. You've got to also be able to fit into whatever, learn to do a job in many different teams, in many different ways. And obviously, the more roles you can fill, the better player you are, and the more you can impact a game. But I think obviously he's got the second season now, hasn't he, at Real Madrid? So that's going to be a challenge for him. So
he's got to keep going into.
He's got to see how he marks up this season. Obviously, stay injury free. In
saying that, we're incredibly proud of him for what they've done.
Well,
and what he's done.
I think it may still happen, but I think if we'd have won it, I wondered whether there was some local sculptors who would come up with a statue of the overhead kick ready to go in Stourbridge or somewhere. But anyway, so for the second part of the show, as I said, we'll just conclude. I never intended when I planned this that it would run over 3 episodes, but that's the way it has. But never mind. So back to Hilly and Billy's Britain. So while we hear all the talk about what's going to be done, or from the people now running the country, we'll talk about how we would attempt to do things. So I wanted to move on to talk about housing, because that again is a topic that keeps being thrown around, and we keep hearing, we're not building enough houses, and rents are too high, house prices are too high, on and on and on. And I don't really know how we fix the issue of the property market, because at the end of the day, who's going to stop it if people are making money out of it? But one sort of fairly clear thing to me which can be addressed is the fact that councils are selling. One of the main problems seems to be that councils are selling their properties to people under the right to buy scheme, and then not replacing them. So hence that means that the waiting lists, which are already chocker from what we hear, the councils are losing properties, not replacing them, and so of course the waiting lists just go on and on. And so I think one thing that should be done is that the right to buy scheme should be suspended until councils have had a chance to replenish their housing stock, and then once they have, they then shouldn't be able to sell a property to somebody under the right to buy scheme until they've lined up a replacement. So in other words, the housing stock stays at a certain level, and hopefully, and of course the other issue is like a lot of these things is people have unfortunately abused the system whereby they buy the property for a reduced rate under the market value, and then lo and behold, within a short period of time, they sell it for a massive profit. And the council's lost a property, they've made a profit, and in the end, the idea that was to help people get homed has gone out the window again. So.
I can never do the maths, because you get loads of young people, particularly saying, "Well, we can't get on the property ladder, and we can't afford the rent, so we live in with our mum." And then you think, well, if you're going to build all these houses, but they're unaffordable, who's going to go in them?
Well, this is
why build? Why, compound the problem? Really,
it's not just about building more. It's about the way. It's like I said. First and foremost, if there are people out there, on the council, waiting on the waiting list for a council property, then the councils, if the property is going to be built, then either the property needs to be built to, like I say, to replenish the stock that's been lost by councils over the years, and then on top of that, they should then look at if there's other properties that for whatever reason, if people have bought them to rent out and they want rid of them, otherwise, so the council could go around and pick up properties for not much money, at auction and things, the same as private buyers do, and replenish it that way. But it's the postcode thing, isn't it? It's the location. Yeah. So you can say to a contractor, a builder, say, right, here's a contract to build X amount of homes in this location, but the builder's not going to be thinking, oh, we'll sell it for a fair price. Well, we don't really want to build it there because that's not a fancied postcode.
Yeah.
And I mean, a classic example that I personally experienced was looking to buy a house in Stourport. It was a new build. The show home for the particular style we were looking at wasn't in Stourport. That was in Stratford. So we went over there to look at it. So the same property built by the same people, same style, same size, exact replica, just in a different, only thing different where it was. In Stratford, it was something like 350 grand. In Stourport, it was 250.
Uh-huh.
So for no other reason, the same materials built, for no other reason than just where it happened to stand.
Mm.
And
I presume that's because it's cost the builder more to buy the land to build on.
Well, this is it. I mean, if that's the case, and that obviously needs addressing, because at the end of the day, you can't, so is the government going to buy this land and then take that cost away? And it's easy to say, oh, build more, but it's got to work financially for, the people doing the building, because unless the government, and again, if the government are going to sort of pay them, it needs to be done sensibly, not, ridiculous amounts of money. So it all gets, they end up sticking ridiculous amounts of properties in a small area, and so on and so on. But yeah, and the rent thing. I mean, I don't personally understand landlords' logic, to be perfectly honest. Because I mean, surely, if I'm a landlord and you've got a tenant paying rent, and as long as it's getting you a bit of an income, you can then put the rent up, end up risk losing the tenant, and then really, what if you're then going to struggle to find a replacement tenant? What have you gained? You've just ended up losing your rental income. So I think landlords have got to play their bit as well, be more sensible with. I mean, I don't I'm a bit reluctant to say cap on rents or whatever, but I
suppose you'd have to, again, it's a postcode thing, and you're going to Yeah, and it depends. I suppose it with the landlord. It depends. Do they when they go on when they go on their particular journey? Do they finance one house to buy another, to buy another, to buy another? So they've always got that big mortgage themselves, which is why they think, well, I'm going to have to put the rent up to pay my mortgage, or I won't be out, or I'm coming against a dead end. Well, I can't have any more properties and make any more money. It's almost like counterproductive in a way, isn't it? Or they get tricked by their own greed, for want of a better word, really.
Well, again, this is what's the motivation? And no matter what plan, it's down to the motivation of the individual, isn't it? If your motivation is to get a property and get as much profit, but it's kind of, for different reasons. It's a bit like the issue with like town centre premises. You keep hearing, landlords are putting the rent up, and you think, well, why? The demand. We keep being told demand's falling for them, so really, I'll just be grateful I got a tenant. And unless you can sell the property or whatever, then if you get rid of your tenant and end up not replacing them, which from what we're hearing is becoming harder and harder. Ultimately you're just losing out anyway. So
yeah, I think in the sort of the commercial vein, it's exactly the same. When you're in the flooring trade and you come in and you go, right, there's 50% off. You've actually got to do twice as much business to do the same amount of money. So in some respects, if you don't, you're on a loser, aren't you? And it's the same with housing, isn't it? If you bung it up and you've got nobody in there, you're on a loser. So why not keep it at a reasonable level and be satisfied with what you've got?
Well, better to have something than nothing, isn't it, at the end of the day? And so I think it's, it's all very well the government or people saying, "Oh, do this, do that," but it's there's so many people in the chain that are involved, and everybody's got to be sort of on the same page with it all and wanting to achieve the same thing. And I think, but also again, I think the council, the right to buy scheme, where for anyone that doesn't know, is that so. Where you have if you're living in a council property and you want to buy, you don't have to save up a deposit, so you're already getting a helping hand there, and then on top of that they sell it for below and a fair bit below usually the market value. And so if you're able to get a mortgage, like I say, suspend the right to buy, and if people really really want to buy their property, then okay, but you have to do it the same as you would for any other property. So you have to put that, you have to give the deposit, save the deposit, and you get a mortgage, but for the market value. So therefore the council isn't losing out, and therefore people aren't then taking advantage of profiting from making profit out of ultimately reducing the council's housing stock. So it's very.
And there's also the problem in where there's a lot of arguments now as to where they're going to allocate land for houses, and out in green belts and some other areas, and people are going, well, we don't want it. There's going to be a time where there's going to be a lot of these people revolt against the plans to put houses in all skirting a village that's been there for hundreds and hundreds of years. And I mean, for an example. Eddie Morton and the Corbett Meadow Committee fought the NHS for about 4 years to stop them building on Corbett Meadows. It's owned by the NHS. They were going to sell it for builders, and I mean Eddie did his homework and said, look, there's no facility for extra schools. There's no facility for extra doctors. You're going to increase the traffic coming onto the Amblecote Road by 200%. This is going to pollute the air. So they really built up this case, and in the end won and stopped the NHS selling it to the builders for now. But that's going to be a case where that's going to happen all over the country, isn't it? Where people are going to fight the plans.
Well, they're saying about basically removing the barriers to planning. So in other words, making it easy to get planning permission. Well, of course, that might be great for builders but local residents aren't just going to go, oh well, they're not. It's going to, and unfortunately we do have this kind of thing where, not in my backyard kind of. Yeah.
But I mean, if you'd lived in a village all your life and your family had lived in a village, or even if you'd moved out of the city for your retirement and you've gone in a village and you think, oh, this is great, I can chill out
And the
now.
town
And then
follows you.
all of a sudden, bump 400 houses at your backyard and you think, what's going on here? And I would imagine your property would go down anyway because it's
Well,
not
it's not as exclusive then.
exclusive then, is
and
it? It's a real dilemma, and it's all right to say it, but putting it into practice and not getting any flack is going to be another thing, I think, really.
Oh well, it's. But this is the but like I say, so for so many, and yeah, I'm sure it is difficult, but the economy is stabilised now. I mean, I'm still personally smarting because I've still got another year of paying sort of a vastly increased monthly mortgage payment until I can do anything about getting it down. So I've suffered because of it as well. But but the point is that it is back to it, and ultimately, unfortunately, if sometimes when people say they can't get on the property ladder, well, are they setting their sights too high? I mean, sometimes maybe you have to buy a flat to start with, and then if you can sell your flat and get something, but we can't always get to where we want to get to immediately, and so I wonder sometimes is there a bit of that attitude going on? I mean, yes, I know it's like we say in certain areas, especially around London and down the southeast, particularly. I know people who live down there, and it's just to get a flat down there, you're talking knocking on $500,000, it's crazy, but I think people have to all do their bit, and be realistic. And like I say, and from the council's side of things, or housing associations, all these organisations, if they can acquire more properties, but then keep hold of them, so that there's always that to fall back on for people, or to obviously help people get homed if they can't afford to get a mortgage, but like I say, but then when they are in those homes, it shouldn't be then taken advantage of, as in that the property shouldn't be then given away for nothing to them, and they can then go on and sell it and all the rest of it. It should be kept for the person who needs it next. If you're in a position to get a mortgage, you can get one on a property that isn't council owned, and leave that to the next person. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see
It
how.
is going to be interesting, and of course now that they've got to put the money where the mouth is, and the party that's come out to power, to me, they're on the side that's easier, because it's easy to criticise when you're not in power, ain't you? Oh. So we'll just see what the reactions is from one to the other.
It's yeah. How are we doing for time?
You've got probably 6 minutes.
Okay. Well, well, really, I was going to finish by mentioning one which well, there's couple of definite things I would do, but to do with work and benefits. So, one thing that I've heard bandied about, but which I think is a good idea, is to raise the income tax threshold from 12,000. What is it at the moment? Yeah, sorry, it's £12,570 at the moment. So if we raise that to £20,000 a year, then that would mean that so many people who are unfortunately only earning minimum wage, they would keep virtually all of what they earn. So that would obviously leave more money in their pockets, and hopefully help break the cycle of, well, I want to work more, but if I do, then I'll lose out on benefits, etc. The same cycle we keep going round.
Yeah. And also that group of people are probably the ones that have got young kids, got young families, can only work a certain number of hours in the week, and so if they're affected by child benefits and all that, if they've got all of the money, then it's less of a strain on everything else, isn't it?
Well, and then more of it, if they're keeping more of, it's a fair chunk, it's an extra, just over 7,000, and that would then hopefully, like I say, give them the make them feel it was worthwhile, rather than thinking, well, I'll get more for doing it this way, and of course, then that gets gets them contributing more, hopefully gets the economy going more, etc., and all these things. But but then unfortunately, and we keep hearing all this things about the plans, or get more people training, apprenticeships, all this, that, and the other. But ultimately, I don't know what we do, because the problem is you can go and train to do things now. You always have been able to. If you want to go and learn to be, I don't know, a bricklayer, or a teacher, whatever you want to be, the course is out there. You go and do it. But so spending more money isn't going to change people's attitude. Is my concern with it all. Unfortunately, I don't know how we break this attitude that seems to have come about, where I keep coming back to the word responsibility. I think somehow we've so many people don't want, or don't seem to want, to take responsibility for their own lives for whatever reason, and I don't know why it is. I've fought tooth and nail for 7 years to get a job, and and many times I've cried in frustration because but yet I've kept going, and eventually I've got there, and hopefully I can stay there now. But why do I do that when there's people who just don't seem fussed? They don't seem fussed about. No, I don't work. No, I don't. And then I'm living in poverty. Well, yeah, but if you actually got a job, you might not be. And
there's always a way to do something about it, but it is a mindset, and it's all about. I think it's all about how they're shaped, but by what's gone before them and their life experiences. And if it is that, and it's not really criticism, if they come from a place where it's always been inherent,
then they don't see what the problem is.
They don't see what the problem is. It's just a life that they're used to, isn't it, really? And although they can moan about it, it's a life that they accept in a way. Well, so it's like you say, somewhere down the line, somebody's got to be the maverick and the champion, say, well, I don't want this, and I want to do, this.
I want to do better, or
exactly.
I don't want to rely on whatever the benefit rate happens to be. There's jobs out there that will, it's like, I don't understand what, like, my income now has virtually doubled. In fact, has doubled if you include my disability benefit with it. Yeah. So, why would you not want that?
Yeah.
Why would you not want? And
for your own well-being. I'm actually working to earn a living.
Well, we keep hearing about mental health, and I'm sorry, but I absolutely 100% believe that if so many of these people who say they're struggling with their mental health, yes, it may be daunting, yes, it may be nerve-wracking, of course it is. Doing anything new for the first time is nerve-wracking. I've been terrified going into a new workplace, but you get through it, and you find your feet, and then it's so much better. You're doing something, you're contributing, you've got money in your pocket. That gives you options. That gives you can think, I can have a holiday now, or the good things in life, and so many people could just break this cycle of whatever mental health and whatever they're struggling with. They'd feel so much better if they could just
it's functioning in a different way, isn't it? You've got about 40 odd seconds.
I hope. There we go. Well, but obviously, again, thoughts, join in, send in your thoughts of what we've talked about. Do you agree, disagree, or do you want us to talk about any other topics? But they were the few that I picked out. So email me.
It'll be the Paralympics and the Olympics next time anyway. That starts.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's a couple of weeks. So to get in touch, email me, simonhill_6@hotmail.com, or you can find me on Facebook. Let me know your thoughts on what we've talked about the last few episodes, and also I still want to hear about your stories about living with a disability or health condition, challenges you face, and successes. They do happen, so let me know about them. If you want to come on the show and tell us about them yourself, let me know, or send them in and I can read them out and discuss them. And your stories for Comeback Common Sense and In the Name of Sanity. So anything crazy that's happened to you that you want to share or get off your chest, or subjects which really wind you up and you think have gone a bit out of hand. I've certainly got some lined up for the coming episodes, so the more I've got to work with, the better the shows will hopefully be, and the more entertaining there will be to listen to, and we can all get things off our chest together. So I hope you've enjoyed Hilly and Billy's Britain, and we'll see how things develop under the new government. But until next time, take care, and as always, stay sane.